just if you're familiar with the English language, if I was going to break down basic definitions, like a person who's like a pussy or a scaredy cat or a loser or a bitch would probably be defined as a person who, acts dishonestly, who lies behind people's backs, who goes around and says things that aren't true, who manipulates people. That's the kind of definition for like a pussy or a bitch. A pussy or a bitch is not defined as, a very strong individual who stands up for themselves or what they believe in, regardless of the amount of adversity they have to face. Like, tremendous amount of adversity. Yeah, I mean, just logically, if you look at the definition of the word, I don't know. I guess intelligence doesn't grow on trees. And, I basically left that area because I was under so much stress mentally because that area was so incapable of understanding my situation that it continually put me under stress to the point where I was at fear mentally of staying there any longer. So it wasn't an issue of me being afraid or scared. It was literally to protect my own mental health because I couldn't be in that area any longer. And if you disagree with me, I don't know. I don't even know why I'm commenting. I need to stop commenting on people I disagree with or people who disagree with me. And I think that in itself would tremendously help my situation. The problem is I still talk to like my family, like people who just don't want to listen to me even up until this point. And I think what I'm going to have to do, because I still talk to people who don't want to listen to me and it further traumatizes me and it stirs up these opinions that I have and I keep making these videos. And I realize that the more I leave the people who don't want to listen to me and don't want to understand my situation, whatever their reasoning is, if I leave those people be and I stop interacting with them, my anxiety ceases it melts. And again, the duration of that process, if you don't understand how long that needs to be, you haven't been watching enough of my videos and you haven't been listening to them. You need to rewatch them. You need to add them to your watch list. So get to it. In regard to my parents, I think they think they're trying to help me, but what they think is important to them. And that's all their children being together and having relationships. But their children weren't close growing up. And they need to understand that. And also, they need to let all of their children be their own adults. You can help your children, but you need to let them grow up and be adults. And you need to acknowledge, what they have to say, their perspective. And if you can't understand something, you need to understand that you can't understand it. And that means that if you can't understand a situation, you can't help a situation. And most likely, if you can't help a situation because you don't understand it, you're probably going to make that situation worse the more involved you are until you understand it. And if your lack of understanding comes out of a lack of respect, I mean, at this point, if somebody was involved in my situation, like heavily involved from the beginning, and doesn't understand it, they're never going to understand it because they don't want to, because they can't look at me how I am, I guess. And that's based off things that I've done, my actions, how I feel, who I am, those kind of things. And, I may be somewhat of a unique individual, but if you're going to treat me like a dishonest person when I'm not, then you're not going to help me and you're only going to irritate me and only going to make my situation worse. And you need to I don't know, acknowledge that you don't know as much as you think you do, and you need to just, I don't know, if you can't understand things, you can't understand things. And I guess it's up to me to, which I've been doing. And that seems like what I have to do. Um, some people just never learn. They just never learn. Sometimes the most important thing in life isn't that everybody's together. If people don't get along with each other, if people don't have respect for each other, things aren't meant to be together. It's just the way it is. It kind of, like, I have my own goals, priorities, independence, and that's something my family has always struggled with. Even just going away to college was a fight for me, and I was more than ready. But from my family's perspective, I wasn't ready at all. When I went to college, I breezed through from my first semester all the way through undergrad. I started taking undergrad classes or graduate classes in undergrad. I got a scholarship to grad school. I was a TA in grad school. All of these things were things that not only did I think I didn't think I was capable of, which is, that's probably the worst part of it, but my family didn't even put that anywhere near the spectrum of things that I could have accomplished. Actually, when I sat with my father in orientation freshman year, he looked around and he looked back at me and he said, wow, like these kids, somewhere along these kids seem pretty intelligent. You're gonna have to put a lot of work in. I blew all those kids out of the water. That right there shows the understanding of my family, my parents, of how they think of me, and like how I actually am and what I actually am capable. That example right there is a great example of what I've dealt with my entire life, and I think things just speak for themselves eventually. I've dealt with situations where I think because of the way I communicate and because of the unorthodox way I communicate when I've worked with people directly. In college, it was never a problem because if there was a lack of communication, lack of understanding, I just took over the work. I just did it, and nobody had any questions. Nobody had any issues. People were a lot lazier in college, and it wasn't like people's money was on the line. So I guess they weren't as concerned. And, I did it because I knew I was going to get a good grade if I did it. And then when I got into the real world, the way I communicate, the unorthodox, I don't think people can always follow my conversations. And then maybe the way that I communicate back, sometimes I'm thinking about a lot of things, and I don't maybe seem the most engaging. And I think the jobs I worked, there was definitely a miscommunication where people thought that I had a lack of understanding. I'm not gonna say I understand everything perfectly, but like a lack of understanding way, way beyond, any lack of understanding I actually had. And like those bosses I actually had trouble understanding what I was saying sometimes, and there was a miscommunication, and I'd always have to account for it and like make up for it, like justify that I understood things, just because there was this extra doubt from the way that I communicate, I guess. But that's something that I don't have to deal with as much anymore because I work for myself, and financially that may be difficult off the bat, but as we progress years down the line, I'm gonna acknowledge this as a great decision, and I don't really give a fuck about opinions of other people. I need to stop commenting on them, because that's how you describe them. I think one of the big reasons I let these videos rip now and I just don't give a fuck is because I don't really need to prove to anybody. If somebody thinks I'm a loser now, I don't know. I'm working really hard, and I'm probably going to want to have nothing to do with them from this point on into the future. If I still don't talk to them and whatever, I just don't care. I'm just letting my opinions out. Like I said, channel's here to voice my opinions. So I think, I mean, even now and in the long run, if I ever have future kids, these videos would be something I would proudly show them. I think that talking about everything I've been through and how it's bothered me and how it's impacted me, um, and just letting go of the social aspects of how people think of these videos and how people think of me when I do these videos is probably one of the manliest, um, just strongest things I could ever do. Um, there's really nothing else to be said about it. And maybe one day I'll be lucky enough to meet a woman who would be smart enough to agree. So we'll see.